I hate this goddamn league. I don't mind the temporary divisional realignment. It makes sense when those pesky Canadians don't want us to infect their sacred soil. For all I know, this could just be Canada's plot to get their country represented in the finals for once, and I'm okay with that. I'll even be cool if this goes on for another year, at least during the regular season. But please, hear me out on this one thing. I desperately want to see the playoffs just have 1 through 16 seeds. Nix the divisions, fuck the conferences. My idea of a good Stanley Cup Finals series is that the top 2 teams in the entire NHL battle it out. As such, every team in the playoffs should be given a fair shot at proving they are the it team. If number 16 Montreal is it, they'll prove it by beating number 1 Colorado, number 2 Carolina, number 3 Toronto, and number 4 Pittsburgh in back-to-back-to-back-to-back playoff series. Prior to 2014, the road to the Cup was similar enough to what I just described, even if it culminated in a West versus East showdown anyway. At least that's finally been axed for this year's playoffs. But having these divisional playoffs that take up the entire first 2 rounds is fucking offensive. Vegas and Colorado are probably the 2 best teams in the league on the season, but because they both play in the West, they'll never meet each other in the finals. I'm a fan of a divisional rival that also made the big dance, but I definitely watch a playoff series between these two, the way they've been playing. Unfortunately, this retreaded playoff format to which we're being subjective guarantees that at least one of them will have been eliminated after just 2 rounds. This is what happens when 2 or 3 of the best teams in the league play in the same goddamn division but are forced to battle each other to the death first. Remember the 2017 Metropolitan? At least the Pens went on to win the Cup that year. And another thing, is a game in the regular season worth 2 points or 3? Nobody seems to know for sure until the end of regulation, guys. This is unfairly bloating the point totals for those teams that just decide to shut it down come overtime. As a result, 2 points for winning a game in 60 minutes is just not rewarding enough. So let's incentivize finishing the opponent in 60 and make it 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for an overtime or shootout win, 1 time for an overpoint or shootout loss, and no points for a regulation loss. At least the grand point total at season's end would be the same no matter what. I don't know why I even bother at this point. There's too much luck involved in playoff hockey. You combine that with this godforsaken playoff bracket and you'll get why I'm such a cynical squid boy. 3, 2, 1, go! I guess I'll start with the first division to finish their season. That was the Discover Central Division, where the Carolina Hurricanes host the Nashville Predators, not number 16 Montreal, for no good reason. Goaltending was the main story for the Canes, not to mention the absolute tear they went on to end the year. I remember when I thought Pekka Rinne was just too good right now. Those days are long gone, and the respective goalie situations have essentially flipped on their heads. What a difference 3 years makes. I think Carolina will make a swift start to their deep playoff run via the first round sweep. Afterwards, they'll wait a little while for the conclusion of the inaugural playoff showdown for the Governor's Cup, featuring the Florida Panthers and their return to relevance, and the defending Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning. This poses an interesting matchup on the surface as the 2 teams split the season series and finish with very similar point totals. This is where the similarities end. With my point structure, Tampa Bay would have had about 5 or 6 more points than Florida for having won 5 or 6 more games in regulation. But their biggest story by far has to be Andrei Vasilevskiy. The former Vezina winner had yet another dominant season, posting a goals against average right around 2. Combine that with the team's superior power play and penalty kill, and you've got an easy 5-game series winner in Tampa Bay. So that sets up the Central Division series between the Hurricanes and the Lightning, and this is the first point where I'm just a little bit stumped. These teams again split their season series, with the winning team scoring early and often, which doesn't bode very well for Vasilevskiy. Carolina employed a threesome in net through the season, which gave them 6 shutout wins in total, as impressive as Vasilevskiy having 5 of his own, so the Canes have more options for between the pipes. My view is that they'll use those options to get the other hand and ride it to an intense 6-game victory over the pink gold peach of the NHL. I'm not sorry. Next up, the Mass Mutual East Division season opening round matchup between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Islanders. I don't know much about these teams. The Penguins' offense, headed by the great Sidney Crosby, likes to score a fucking lot, while the Isles are backed by a loaded defense and/or championship goaltending from the veteran Semyon Varlamov. Both of these teams had home arena records that were holy fucking shit! Well, maybe that's the key to this matchup. So these guys duel all the way to a Game 7, which goes into quadruple overtime because why the fuck not? These are the moments where the Penguins like to make history. Sidney Crosby, the golden goal. Nick Bonino ripping the hearts out of Caps fans everywhere. Chris Kunitz wiping Ottawa off the face of the fucking earth. Someone on this roster will put Pittsburgh back on the map after winning this 7-game thriller. So that gives the Pens a home ice second-round matchup against either the Washington Capitals or the Boston Bruins, who have probably already finished their series right about now. The Caps entered the playoffs incredibly short-handed with a growing number of injuries to their big stars, including the Great Eight. Boston will use this to their advantage and brush Washington aside in 5 games. It's almost as if the Caps never won the Cup. Ovi is sent back to the Lynx early yet again as he watches his old foe in the Pens take on the Bruins for the division championship that actually matters. It's interesting to note that Boston actually won the season series against Pittsburgh, backstopped by that veteran goalie whom they have to keep on a short leash. Of course, he's still got his work cut out for him against 2 of the top scoring skaters in the league, but I think he can still manage with his own nice tandem of Brad Marchand and Patrice Bergeron backing him up. The Bruins will win this death battle in another Game 7. That should keep the Boston sports media quiet for a while. Over in the Honda West Division, the President's Trophy winning the Colorado Avalanche. They'll be the ones hosting the St. Louis Blues in a series against two forces that have been pretty potent over the last few weeks. Okay, Colorado is firing on all cylinders at this point. It's pretty hard to ignore them after sniping Vegas at the last second to win the President's Trophy again. Of course, I could be missing something about that team from St. Louis that got a bit of help from the refs 2 years ago, so I suppose there's the off chance that St. Louis makes this into a series, but there's no reason why one of the hottest teams in the NHL and the Avs can't put away the Blues in 6 games. While that madness is going on, the Vegas Golden Knights, yeah, remember them, take on the Minnesota Wild. Are you fucking kidding me? Nope, I can't. This season's over. I'm done. Why do we always have to run into teams with far more stable goaltending? It doesn't matter how good Kirill Kaprizov is, obviously it won't be good enough to compete with Max Pacioretty and Alex Pietrangelo and Marc-Andre Fleury. Nobody's given Minnie a chance in hell anyway, but can you blame them? Minnesota teams always fall to shit in the playoffs. Why the fuck should I believe this year will be different? Knights in 3. Yeah, the Wild can get their asses swept. They're never winning in my time. The state of hockey is bullshit! Good, now we can talk about a potential Golden Knights Avalanche series. I know I just said that matchup will be entertaining as all hell, but the more I think about it, Vegas just seems way too good right now. You do not simply brush off an 11-game winning streak for the Knights down the stretch. They'll escape this 6-game bloodbath relatively unscathed, allowing us to once again laugh at Pittsburgh for not protecting Marc-Andre Fleury in the expansion draft. Seriously, they didn't stop to consider the idea he might have been a key piece in winning back-to-back cups? What a bunch of retreads! And finally, we have the all-Canadian shit show known as the Scotia North Division, featuring a first-round showdown between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. Let's talk about the Leafs for a bit. This is a team that's infamously had a bit of difficulty winning a single playoff series as of late, despite transcendent levels of production from Austin Matthews. And I know how that's gotta feel, I'm a Twins fan. The only difference is the Leafs actually get their closure against a nondescript Habs squad backstopped by either the overcooked Carey Price or that one-year wonder known as Jake Allen. Come on. If Toronto loses to these guys, I can feel just a little better about my sub-500 baseball team right now. But they won't. They will get their long-awaited series win, and they will advance by way of the 4-game sweep. But they'll have to wait a few days for the other Canadian series to play out between the Edmonton Oilers and the Winnipeg Jets. Or will they? Edmonton has 3 things that Winnipeg doesn't. 2 80-point scorers in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, a scorching hot streak to end the regular season, and the best power play across the league. The reasonable expectation is that the Oilers will pull off a sweep of their own and expose the Jets as the one team that couldn't win a playoff game for the longest time. So that sets up an epic showdown between those 2 old veterans in the Order of the Tank, the Maple Leafs versus the Oilers. Well, this should be one for the ages. You know how I said Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl scored a fucking lot? Well, it turns out Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner did the same damn thing. So we can expect a super high-scoring 7-game shootout from these guys. Choosing which team would triumph in the deciding 7th game was going to be a pick'em for me, but then I discovered something truly game-changing. Jack fucking Campbell. He took on the starting role after the usual Leafs netminder Frederik Andersen went down with a lower body injury and just tore the rest of Canada to shreds. I would anticipate Campbell's their guy come playoff time, but if a healthy Frederik Andersen returns as a backup, he is a force to be reckoned with. The advantage Toronto now has in goalie depth is their key to sending Edmonton packing. After shutting the Oilers down once and for all, the Leafs stand alone as the North's it team. This is where the road to Lord Stanley really heats up. 4 teams are left to face off in the round of 4, which makes sense, and they'll be reseeded according to their season records. Well, that was simple enough. Of course, these teams haven't played each other at all this year, so that'll add to the unpredictability factor for which this sport is so infamous. That means the Vegas Golden Knights will draw the Boston Bruins in another matchup where I'm kinda stumped. Brad Marchand had a top 3 scoring year for the Bruins, but I've seen firsthand how dangerous the Knights lineup can be at the worst of times. Not to mention Marc-Andre Fleury is still a worthy Vezina candidate after all these years. Seriously, there was a reason I was not looking forward to sharing a division with Vegas. Their truly one-of-a-kind superstar roster has demonstrated their ability all season long, and it's only reasonable that they keep the momentum going past the Bruins in 5 games. Let the local sports media in Boston sound off on me right now. While they're doing that, the Carolina Hurricanes are left to battle the Toronto Maple Leafs with a finals appearance on the line. You already know the Leafs faithful are salivating at that thought. Who knows what the possibilities are for Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Jack Campbell against Sebastian Aho? Yeah, that deep playoff run Carolina's on at this point stops here. Toronto's got too much star power of their own to falter this close to the cup. They will make their first finals in forever by way of the sweep. Yep, I'm dead serious. They need a rally song of their own to play after winning the series-clinching Game 4 at the hangar while they're at it. Well, here we are. Your Stanley Cup Finals in 2021 is raw power on raw power. A fierce bloodbath between the Las Vegas Knights of the Rectangle and the Toronto erroneously colored maple syrup junkies. Daniel Negreanu should be happy whatever the outcome, right? I've noticed that the last few finals have followed a series of narratives. In 2017, the Penguins asserted their perpetual dominance across the rest of the league for the second straight year, and they broke Pecorine. 2018 was the year the Capitals won the Cup for the first time in their 40-year history. 2019 was the same story for the Nats. Last year, the Lightning successfully avenged their humiliating loss the previous year by winning it all. In 2021, the narrative is all Toronto's to fulfill. So what if Vegas made the finals as an expansion team? Anybody can do that. Actually getting to the Cup takes a superstar-studded roster, a rabid fanbase that still can't get tickets to their games, and a 50-plus year choking history. The Maple Leafs have it all. They will win the Stanley Cup in 6 and make me a salty squid boy. Or they can get swept in the first round and make me eat a pile of shit. Whatever happens, I lose. Top 10 worst Mario Galaxies coming this year, perhaps. You know what to do. And as always, Joe Buck is awesome.